Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, SiggyGunz never fail.
What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum here along with SiggyGunz, and welcome to Fantasy Football Fiends Week 9 Stardom and Situm Show. And real quick, thank you to all the people once again that are commenting, giving us all the support, subscribing to us, interacting with us on a daily basis on our Stardom and Situm Show during the in the comment section. And also to explain the show for those of you who are new, once again, we do have a ticker at the bottom there who has our rankings for the week. That means just week 9 rankings. So if you're missing a player there, if you don't see, certain players, obviously they might be in a bye or maybe they have a bad matchup. That's why we had the rankings a certain way. And also, we don't talk about the elite players. We don't talk about the Des Bryants, the Calvin Johnsons, the AJ Greens, the Peyton Mannings, really. We don't really discuss them too much because those are always must starts. So that's the reason why when we say there's a must start on our list, it's because we're talking about the other players that you might not see on or think about on a daily basis, or the wide receiver 2s, the wide receiver 3s. We talk about those guys. We save that talk for the Peyton Mannings, the Andrew Lucks, and all those people. We save that for the comment section for people that ask us questions about those, about trades or anything like that. We save that for the comment section. Also, please read the description. We do this show very early. We do this show on a Tuesday, day after the Monday Night Football game. So we are not aware of the injuries that will happen during the week. We're not aware of people that are inactive for the week yet. So we do this based on our own assumption of what might happen during the week or who we assume might be out again. So if there's anything like any changes to a starting lineup or any changes to something that we might put as a sleeper or a start, we put them in the comment or in the description. We put it as an update with stars there so you can see who to change in your lineups, and we do that. So always pay attention to the description, and you'll be all set. Also, negative comments. All negative comments will just be deleted from here on out. Just period. We haven't had really that many. We've had like a couple people come on and say some really harsh things and some really bad things, and those kind of comments aren't warranted. They'll just be deleted, removed, and you'll be banned or blocked. And if somebody's giving you a hard time on there when you're trying to ask us questions, just ban and block them on your own end, so that way you don't have to deal with trolls or deal with people like that. So moving on. Let's get right into our stuff. With not many injuries to talk about, but there's a lot of teams on bye. Atlanta, Buffalo, Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, Tennessee, which means a lot of elite receivers, running backs, players are out. So we're going to talk about a lot of players today and people that you should put in. So let's get right into our waiver wire picks. Who's your 3 waiver wire pickups of the week, Sig?
My 3 are Martavis Bryant out of Pittsburgh, Dante Moncrief of the Colts, and Charles Sims of Tampa Bay. And I'll go and talk about Charles Sims. Charles Sims is somebody that they were very high on, got hurt in preseason. He's coming off of the injured reserve list, and Doug Martin has just been horrible. And I think Tampa Bay is, now that they're 1-6, as soon as he's ready, they're going to go ahead and drop him in there full load. He's eligible this week to come out. I'm not sure if they will or not. However, you're probably going to want to get a hold of this guy now. You don't want to miss out, especially if you miss out on guys like Trey Mason, stuff like that. Charles Sims has that kind of ceiling, for this team. So certainly, if you get needing some running back help, that's going to be a good pickup.
Oh yeah, my 3 waivers are Michael Vick, Martavis Bryant, and John Brown. And I'll talk about John Brown. This guy's been the deep threat for Arizona, and they're playing the Cowboys team who they had a rough time with Deshaun Jackson, speedy wide receiver. And this guy, he might not be a starting wide receiver. He might not be the 1 or 2. Obviously, Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald are. But he's the guy that Carson Palmer just seems to trust going deep every time. And Carson Palmer throws a nice deep ball. And I have a feeling that those Cowboys are going to struggle with a guy like John Brown, especially in 3 wide receiver sets. And catching a couple bombs easily can get like 80, 90, 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. On deep balls. So John Brown's a definite, really good waiver wire pickup, especially right now. He's been catching long bombs and touchdowns. So let's get into the stardom portion of the show. And Siggy, who's your stardom quarterback this week, or stardom quarterbacks?
I got Eli Manning, Colin Kaepernick, and Andy Dalton. I'll go and talk about Eli Manning. Eli Manning is playing the Colts, and you just saw what Ben Roethlisberger did to the Colts.
That was amazing.
Now, it can either go, and the thing is, the New York Giants' defense is so bad that Eli Manning is going to be forced to be the guy to try to get the game back in hand. So I have a feeling that the New York Giants are going to score a lot on top of it, but give up a ton of points. So I think this is going to be one of those fantasy dream games, and Eli Manning should get you a lot of points if you have him.
Yeah, I have Cam Newton going against the Saints, Eli Manning against the Colts, and Carson Palmer going against the Cowboys. And we'll talk Carson Palmer since I just talked about John Brown also. The Cowboys defense, I mean, you saw what they just happened. They gave up lots of points to Colt McCoy, who was, by the way, my sleeper last week. But Carson Palmer has been he's been playing very good since his return from off the injured list. Been throwing to Larry Fitzgerald a lot. He's been throwing to pretty much all his wide receivers a lot, and he's been throwing an excellent deep ball. And it just seems like Arizona's still rolling, despite whoever they put in, whether it be on defense and offense. And I really like Carson Palmer going against that Cowboys defense, who seems to be a tiny bit struggling since that nice start. But it is the Cowboys. So who's your 3 running back starts of the week?
I got Jerick McKinnon, I got Shane Breen, and I got Marshawn Lynch. Now I'm going to talk about Marshawn Lynch because he's been kind of nowhere lately. He hasn't been beast mode, but now they're playing Oakland, and I know a lot of people, especially me in particular, I've been weary of starting him, even though the name Marshawn Lynch is great. But he's up there with my LaShawn McCoys, my Doug Martins, where you're banking off the name and you're just hoping that they're going to be what they were. But finally this week, it looks like he should be back to himself. I see Seattle being able to control this game, especially at home, and beast mode should finally be beast mode.
Yeah, my 3 running backs are Frank Gore, Jonathan Stewart, and Ahmad Bradshaw. And I'm gonna talk about Ahmad Bradshaw. He's coming back. He's playing the Giants. I think it's his first game against the Giants since being traded away and or released. And you've seen it all year. These players come back and they're playing their former teams, and they've been doing well against their former teams. And if anybody who gets hyped for a game, it's Ahmad Bradshaw. Runs hard, plays hard, and he's just one of those excited dudes to play football. And I think he's gonna go off on his team this week. So who's your 3 must start wide receivers this week?
I got Kelvin Benjamin against the Saints. I got Wes Welker and Doug Baldwin. And we'll talk right about those revenge games. Wes Welker against New England, in New England. All the talk about how he's the reason why they didn't win that one Super Bowl because of the drop. I just got a feeling that, and we've already seen Peyton Manning, it seems like he targets somebody just to make them have a good day. We saw it with Julius Thomas, we saw it with Demaryius Thomas, we saw it last week with Emmanuel Sanders. Well, I think this week in the locker room, he's going to go up to Wes Welker, Peyton Manning, and say, you know what, it's your turn to get your 4 touchdowns against the Patriots. And he's left. He's the only one left that hasn't really had a big game for them, and I just see this being the game. So Wes Welker for sure.
Yeah, my 3 are Stevie Johnson against the Rams, Doug Baldwin against the Raiders, and Odell Beckham Jr. going against the Colts. And I'm going to talk about Doug Baldwin because this is an interesting matchup because the Raiders obviously they're giving up a lot of, they're giving a lot of points, they're giving up a lot of yards and stuff like that. But Doug Baldwin is facing Carlos Rogers and Terrell Brown, who are on the 49ers, and Doug Baldwin used to eat them alive when they were on the 49ers. He used to always just, for some reason, they couldn't cover him. And now they're playing the Raiders and with a little bit of a worse defense than in San Francisco. So I think Doug Baldwin's going to have a crazy game this week, especially the way Russell Wilson trusts him. And another one might be even Jermaine Kearse, but I think Doug Baldwin's going to have the better game of the 2. So who's your 3 tight end starts of the week?
I got Luke Wilson, again, the matchup with Oakland, Greg Olsen, and Vernon Davis. Now, I'm going to talk about Vernon Davis. He's another one that you're living off the name, but he's been virtually non-existent. But finally, against the St. Louis team that's been giving up a lot of yards, he should have a very, very good game. I expect San Francisco offense, especially coming off the bye, to be finally on page, and going forward, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of the formula that works, which is run and then make throws, particularly to Crabtree and Vernon Davis. And I think Vernon Davis will have a good game.
Yeah, my three are Jordan Reed going against the Vikings, Luke Wilson against the Raiders, and Larry Donnell going against the Colts. And Jordan Reed we'll talk about. I had Niles Paul ahead of him the last couple weeks because Niles Paul just seems to be the more athletic guy and the guy that I figured that, especially this week, Colt McCoy would trust a little bit more. Considering, Colt McCoy's a third stringer, he probably had more reps with Paul, especially in the offseason and during the practice and during the preseason. So I figured Paul would be the guy, but he did show a lot of interest in Reed last night, especially throwing the ball to him. And I think Reed is just one of those athletic, gifted tight ends that's just making his mark and starting to come up now. Finally, after he came off the injured list as well. So look for Jordan Reed to have a great game against the Vikings, who have improved a lot on defense as well. But I think Jordan Reed's that, just that Colt McCoy likes to just, get rid of that ball. And he threw a couple deep balls to Jackson, but he's not really a deep ball passer. So it's more short and intermediate throws. And I think, that benefits tight ends and running backs. So look for Reed to get a lot more catches. Who's your stardom defenses this week?
Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, I'm going to be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs because they're playing my New York Jets. The Jets are a turnover machine with Michael Vick, with Geno Smith. It doesn't matter. They're going to throw 3 picks apiece probably if in this game also. I mean, they're just a team right now that has no quarterback. And even with Michael Vick there, you might get a couple of yards from him rushing, but that defense for Kansas City is not going to give up many points, and especially not at Arrowhead. And so great. If you have a chance to pick them up this week, you play Kansas City right now.
Yeah, I have, for my stardom defenses, I have the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Seahawks. And the Bengals, obviously, playing the Jaguars. I mean, Blake Bortles, threw 2 passes last week for pick sixes. It was, ridiculous. Miami ended up scoring, 29 points on fantasy football, depending on what kind of league you're in. But the Bengals need the Jaguars to come to town. They haven't been that great on defense as of late. They haven't been stopping the run like they normally accustomed to. And in comes the Jaguars, and they're just a little bit inefficient on offense. And I look for the Bengals to finally get off to a good game, at least scoring wise in fantasy football. So let's get into the sit-em portion of the show. Who's your 3 quarterback sits of the week?
Ooh, I got some big names on here. Drew Brees, Tony Romo, and Austin Davis. Now I'm going to talk about Drew Brees. Drew Brees struggles on the road. We already know that. But particularly, he struggles against Carolina Panthers in Carolina. And I just have a feeling, the defense has not been playing good at all, Carolina's. But they did show some life last week. And in this game, Thursday night, bigger stage, I just have a feeling that Brees is going to be pedestrian, if that. And I don't see Brees being what you would expect. It's hard to sit Brees. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he's not going to have the kind of game you would like from him. He's going to have a Ryan Tannehill kind of game.
Yeah, my 3 quarterback must-sits are Tony Romo, Mike Glennon, and Ryan Tannehill. Since Tony Romo is obviously the big name on the list, let's talk about Tony Romo. He got banged up in that game against the Redskins. He got that nice hit, that knee to the back, and it doesn't get any better when you face the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense has been playing great. They're one of the best teams against the run this year, and they blitz constantly. They are not afraid to blitz anybody, and they will throw the house at you. And the way, that offensive line is great for Dallas, but it's hard to block 7-8 people coming in the line, and especially, the way they blitz. And if they get to Tony Romo, the reason why he's even on this sit list is because if they hit him and they hit him hard in the back, chances are he might not be able to come back again. Especially, if you watch the game, you saw last night, he got scared of the blitz to the point where he was making mistakes. And luckily for him, there was nobody around, or one of the people dropped it. But that hit made him to where he's like, I better throw it right away so that I don't get hit. And that just leads to being the old Tony Romo, the pick 6 Romo. So yeah, if I had Tony Romo on my fantasy team, which I don't, but if I had him on my fantasy team, I'd be a little scared to start him. I know it's tough to not start him, especially how well he's been doing, but when you're starting them against a Cardinal team that blitzes as much as they do, and if they get to him and they send him out, I mean, there goes fantasy points right there, right out the window. So, and especially for people that, they might have a 500 record or maybe just below, and they're trying to make that playoff push. Whew, I'd be a little scared to start Tony Romo this week. So who's your 3 running back sits of the week?
Chris Ivory, Zach Stacy, and Doug Martin. And I'll go ahead and talk about Doug Martin. He's the big name on there. It's time to move on. He is done. We already talked about earlier Charles Sims, that he's going to be picked up. That just means another person that's going to be taking into the carries. And Doug Martin has been averaging like 2.8, I think, yards a carry. Just horrible.
Yeah, their offensive line is garbage.
Once Sims is active, you're going to see his production drop even further. At this point, if you can get anything for him in a trade, go for it, because right now all he has is the name. There's the rumors that he might be traded to New England, etc. I still wouldn't trust him even on a new team. It's kind of going to be like a Trent Richardson situation. He's not going to know all the plays. They're not going to be running him out there all the time. If you can convince somebody to take him off your hands, I would say do it now.
Yeah, my running back sits are Trey Mason going against the 49ers, Lamar Miller going against the Chargers, and Alfred Morris going against the Vikings. And I'll talk about Lamar Miller. He's been a very good, solid back for Miami the last few weeks. A little bit up and down this year, but he's been pretty solid. And going against a Chargers team that they don't give up that much on the ground. I mean, they've been known to give up some on the air. Obviously, they did last week to Peyton Manning, but it's Peyton Manning. But the Dolphins, I don't think there's much of a threat with Tannehill throwing. I know Tannehill's been doing great as the last few weeks, but still not a threat like it is for Peyton Manning. So I think the Chargers keying in again on that run, and Lamar Miller's going to have a rough day, I think, for on Sunday against the Chargers D. Who's your 3 wide receiver sits of the week?
I got Marcus Colston, I got Vincent Jackson, and I got Demaryius Thomas. Now I'm going to talk about Demaryius Thomas. That's a big name. Again, you don't really want to sit this guy because he's your star player, but he is playing in New England, and I do expect this game to be a shootout. But he's going to be on Revis Island, and Revis shuts down. He does shut down, big receivers like a Thomas, and I just expect that if he's going to get any points, it will probably be around the red zone. But I really strongly feel that Peyton Manning is going to be looking at Wes Welker, Sanders, stuff like that in a situation in New England, because New England likes to blitz also a lot, and then in turn, I don't expect to see deep balls. I expect more short passes. So the other Thomas is the one that's going to get probably the bulk of the work, but we'll see. But it's going to be hard to do it, but you got to sit Thomas this week.
Yeah, that's a very bold prediction. I thought about that one, and I was like, I don't know if I could touch it because I don't know if Peyton Manning's scared of Revis. But we'll see. We'll see. That's a really good prediction. I think Thomas' numbers will be down. I mean, he's not going to get 200 yards receiving and like 13 catches like he's accustomed to. But my 3 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins, Ruben Randle, and Pierre Garçon. And we'll talk about Ruben Randle. I think the Colts, given that game that they had against Ben Roethlisberger, and the way he threw it all over the field on him. I mean, there was receivers catching the ball. Heath Miller had 100 yards receiving. Everybody was just getting in on it. It was like Oprah Winfrey. Everybody gets a touchdown. But it was a little just insane. I think the Colts are going to key in a little bit on Ruben Randle this week. They're going to make a little life difficult for him, which opens up, I think, is going to end up opening up for Odell Beckham because they're going to try to make the rookie beat him. So I think Ruben Randle's just going to have a little bit of a rough game this week. They're going to get after man and make him run for his life a little bit, and I think he's going to have a tough game. So who's your 3 tight end sits of the week?
So some more big names on here: Zach Ertz, Jimmy Graham, and Michael Rivera. Now I'll go ahead and talk about Jimmy Graham. Again, I just think it's going to be a pedestrian game for the Saints offense this week, and it's going to be very tough to sit a guy like Jimmy Graham. Don't get me wrong. And if you only have Mr. Tight End, then I obviously suggest don't sit him. But I just think he's going to have an average game. He needed a touchdown and have pretty good points last week. I just don't see him scoring that much or having many opportunities this time around against Carolina. I just see the Saints struggling offensively this week.
Yeah, I like that pick because it's tough to throw against Carolina with tight ends because of Kuechly and Thomas Davis. Just, fast, good coverage linebackers. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But my 3 tight ends are Jared Cook going against the 49ers, Heath Miller going against the Ravens, and Zach Ertz as well going against the Texans. And I'm talking about Jared Cook. He started off good against that in the first time they played the 49ers, but then just completely fell off after that. And it's all year long the Niners have not been kind to tight ends. I think they're the 4th or 5th highest rated or highest ranked against, tight ends, like in difficulty scoring basically for tight ends. So, and I don't think that improves this week with Patrick Willis and some defenders coming back. So Jared Cook might have a little bit of a rougher go this week against the 49ers, especially on the road in San Francisco. So who's your 3 sit-em defenses of the week?
New England Patriots, the Houston Texans, and the New York Giants. And really, they're all no-brainers because they're playing. I expect shootouts in all 3 of these games. I'll talk about New England more. I just have a feeling that Peyton Manning has a lot of demons, that he has playing in this stadium, also in Gillette. And we saw he finally got over that hump last year in the playoffs. I just have a feeling, or well, at least against the Patriots anyways. Now he's going to have to try to get it against Gillette Stadium. And I just have a feeling that he might not win, but he's not going to have a bad game. And I think that the defense of New England has been pretty good lately, actually. It's just going to have a game where they're going to give up a lot of points.
Yeah, my 3 as well are the Broncos, the Patriots, because they're playing each other, and I have a feeling it's going to be a shootout. Or if not even just a shootout, it's just I don't know if there's going to be much in the realm of punting. So, and the third team being the Dolphins against the Chargers. And Dolphins were one of my must starts last week, but sit them this week because of Phillip Rivers and that offense. That offense is just so good and hard to stop. And I think he's gonna, come into Miami and just, go off on them. So I don't like the Dolphins' chance. Yeah, I don't like the Dolphins' chance against Phillip Rivers, who's one of the top quarterbacks this year in the league as well. I mean, it's been literally a pass-happy league this year. So I don't like the Dolphins' chances going against him. So let's get into the sleeper portion of the show. Who's your 3 sleepers of the week?
Tim Wright, the tight end for New England, that's no one's paying attention to, but he's quietly been scoring a lot lately. He's gotten, I think, a touchdown in like 3 of the last 4 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
And I think with this game being a shootout, he should have a really good game. Hakeem Nicks, obviously a revenge game against the Giants, and Bobby Rainey, like I talked about Doug Martin earlier and Charles Sims. Rainey is poised to at least be the starter for this game coming up, I would imagine, and having a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, my 3 are Dante Moncrief going against the Giants. Dante Moncrief is a rookie who played well in Reggie Wayne's absence, and I don't think Reggie Wayne, he's listed as questionable. I don't think he's playing this week. It is a long week because they're playing Monday night, but still, usually these questionables lately have not been playing. So Dante Moncrief is a guy that I actually wanted the 49ers to draft. Very tall, very fast wide receiver, and he showed it last week, scoring, I think he scored a couple touchdowns or maybe a touchdown. I know he had like 100 yards receiving as well. Brian Hoyer going against the Bucks. Tampa Bay's pass defense is horrendous. It's absolutely horrible. Cleveland is gonna light them up this week. That's what I just know it. Tampa Bay's defense has just been horrible. And DeAnthony Thomas going against the Jets. Jets pass defense is also another one. Just absolutely just horrendous. If the pass rush doesn't get to Alex Smith, DeAnthony Thomas, who's since coming off from being injured, has been playing pretty well for Kansas City, and he plays in the slot. He's kind of like a running back wide receiver hybrid. He's one of those kind of players that gets quick screens and quick slants and things like that and can go deep. He's a very fast player, and I think the Jets are going to struggle this week against him. So that does it. Guys and gals, leave questions or any, fantasy football questions in the comment section. Don't forget to leave feedback if you like. Like I said, all negative feedback, negative feedback can be taken as long as it's given in a very constructive, kind manner. But negative feedback, calling us idiots and my favorite word, buffoons. Oh man, I swear I think only a 60-year-old man would say that. But any kind of negative comments like that is just going to be deleted because it's just a waste of our time, and we don't want to waste our subscribers' time or our time. We're trying to answer questions for the people that actually want it and want the help and need the help. So we're trying our best, and you guys that that are helping us in the comment section as well by responding to people's comments, offering your opinions as well. Hey, we appreciate it. We thank you. We don't think of you as stepping on our toes or anything like that. We appreciate the help, and we'll chime in as well. So it's good to have good subscriber interaction on the channel, and it feels great for us. So we thank you. So anything else you want to add?
I was about to say that we want to say thank you for that. We've noticed that the channel has been growing, pretty good in these last few weeks, and we appreciate it. And thanks, thanks a bunch. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. So for Fantasy Football Fiends, JT Magnum and SiggyGunz, we out. Peace. Good luck this week.